looking at is Algebra 2, Lesson 65, using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is the solution to the quadratic equation. The quadratic equation is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And it's not always plus, it's not always ax squared plus, that may be minus. It could be minus there as well, okay? But our quadratic equation is in the form of ax squared bx c specifically equals 0. Okay, if it doesn't equal 0, I have to set it to equal 0 before I actually have the quadratic equation. So if there's something on the right-hand side, then I need to move it to the left-hand side until I get 0 on the right-hand side. Okay, where a cannot equal 0. Now, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be a lot of other things. And we've solved a lot of these where we factored them down, where we got 2 sets of parentheses, and then we solved each individual set of parentheses for 0. And got, what are my zeros, so I get x equals something on the other side. But not every time does it work where we can put 2 sets of parentheses together, where we can, multiply by these 2 things and add these 2 things and get what, and get my bx and get my c. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and sometimes we get a complex answer. In which case, we are going to use the quadratic equation, which we can always do. Okay, we can always use the quadratic equation to solve, we can always use the quadratic formula to solve the quadratic equation. The quadratic formula is what we see below. X equals negative b. Now I'm going to stop here. B is this guy right here. Okay, so it's the second term in the quadratic equation. It's the second coefficient. What we mean by negative is we mean the opposite value. Which means if b was negative 4, we would put in positive 4 where I have negative b. Do you follow me? All that negative means is opposite of. Okay, the opposite of b. Plus or minus the square root of the value of b squared. So again, if this was negative 4 in for b, I would write negative 4 squared. And I want to be very specific here that negative 4, anytime I have a negative in my negative for b, I need to put it in parentheses inside the square root, okay, because it's not just negative 4 squared, it's parentheses, negative 4 close parentheses squared. I should always get a positive number, in which case it would be 16. Minus 4, that 4 is always there. We're always b squared minus 4 times a. A is whatever that coefficient is, times c, this coefficient here. All of that goes inside the square root, and then we divide it by, that 2 is always there, divide it by 2 times a. Okay, so we always have to have our quadratic equation set up so that I have coefficient x squared plus or minus coefficient x plus or minus constant c. Once I have those labeled, then I go and I put them into the quadratic formula, and then I solve it down as far as I can. Okay? What you see inside the blue box here is what you need to know. All right? If I ask you, what is the quadratic formula? We need to be able to say negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's a long sentence, right? Now, in your book, they show you how to go from the quadratic equation to the quadratic formula. I don't need you to do that. All I need you to know is I need you to know what the quadratic formula is and be able to write it down. If we have questions like this on the test, the first thing that I should do as I start that test is write the quadratic formula at the top so that I can use it if I need it. Does that make sense? So this is a formula that I need to memorize because it's not an easy one. All right, you might know things like how to find the area of a triangle and different formulas on how to find different areas and circumferences and measures. This is one that you need to know. You will use it from here on out. Okay, are we all on board? We all understand what's expected? Okay, now let's get into some questions. Okay, notice question number 1. It says 4x squared minus x plus 5 equals 0. Do I have a quadratic equation? Okay. What number represents a? 4. What number represents B? Good. What number represents C? 5. Okay, so I'm going to come out here over to the right. Okay, and I'm going to put these numbers in the quadratic formula. Okay, so what am I going to write first? No. No. You were close with -1, but why was -1 wrong? Because we need it to be the opposite sign. You're right, B, if I come out over here, A equals 4, B equals -1, C equals 5, but because my quadratic formula is -b, I'm going to write 1. Okay, what comes next? Plus or minus? Square root. -1 squared, correct? Minus 4 times 4 times 5 all over 2 times 4. Okay? Then we reduce, we simplify. The first thing that we want to do is we want to simplify what is inside the square root. So what is -1 times -1? 1. Okay? Then I have minus 4 times 4 times 5. So what is -4 times 4? -16. What's -16 times 5? -80. So what I have is 1 minus 80. Okay, what is 1 minus 80? Minus 79. Is that right? Minus 79. And what is 2 times 4? 8. All right, what can I do with this square root of -79? Is there anything I can take out of that? Jose's shaking his head no. There is something I can take out. Does anybody know what it is? Any thoughts? We've been here, we've done this. I can take out the negative. What does the negative become whenever I take it out? Becomes I. All right, so what I have is 1 plus or minus I radical 79 over 8. Do we see anything that's equivalent to that up there? D. Okay, this is equal to 1 divided by 8 plus or minus radical 79 over 8I. I can move that I to the outside. Okay, so I should be able to get D for an answer there. Are there any questions about that? We understand? Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's erase this. And then number 2, they say use a graphing calculator. All right. Does everybody in here have a graphing calculator? Got a handful of people who don't. Ronnie is going to hand out graphing calculators to people that need them. Okay. Everybody else is going to pull out their graphing calculators. All right. This says solve x squared plus 4x minus 5 using a graphing calculator. The reason we have to use a graphing calculator as opposed to a scientific calculator is because we need a graph. Now, when we're solving quadratic equations, essentially what we are still looking for is where does x equal 0 at? Okay? Or essentially, where does y equal 0? What value for x causes y to equal 0? Okay, and let me show you how this works. Okay, the first thing that we want to do is turn it on, and we need to go to y equals. Y equals. Everybody there? Everybody knows where it's at? Absolute top left. Okay, we've got it. Next thing I'm going to type in here is x. Okay, it's right underneath the word link. We all got that. Then I'm going to hit squared, which is right underneath the square root symbol. So I got x squared plus 4x minus 5. Everybody's got that? We're good? All right, now what I want you to do is I want you to hit graph and see the shape. See how it is a parabola. All right, it comes down and crosses. The values that we are interested in are where we are on the x-axis, where my graph crosses the x-axis, which is where y equals 0. We see that it equals a negative value and a positive value. But can I be 100% sure what those x values are? So this is what I'm going to tell you to do. You're going to hit second, graph. And what that's going to do is it's going to show you x, y coordinates. What we are interested in is where does y equals 0 at? Okay? Notice that y equals 0 when x equals 1, right? So x equals 1 should be one of my answers. And we said that one of the values for x would be negative, correct? So we need to go back towards the negatives. And notice that I cross again at x equals negative 5. So my two values based upon my graph are negative 5 and 1. Negative 5 and 1. So that's how I get D for an answer. Do we understand how to use our graphing calculators to find my x values? Yes? Okay. All right, let's look at question number 3. Okay, we've got a word problem here. We want to be able to do this. All right, so we want to be able to put this into the quadratic formula, which was negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, correct? Okay. So what we have, let's see, let's look at this closely. During the eruption of Mount St. Helens in 1980, debris was ejected at a speed of over 440 feet per second, or 300 miles per hour. Those are some rocks that are moving pretty fast. The height in feet of a rock ejected at an angle of 75 degrees is given by this quadratic equation, where t is the time in seconds after the eruption. The rock's horizontal distance in feet from the ejection point is given by 113 t. If the elevation of the surrounding countryside is 0 feet, what is the horizontal distance from the rock's ejection point to its landing point? Round our answer to the nearest foot. Okay, so what we want to do with this is we need to take this information that they give me and put it into the quadratic equation, right? What is my A? No, what is my A? A equals negative 16. What is B? 425. And what is C? 8,200. So we're dealing with some big numbers. All right, let's put this into the quadratic equation. What is the first thing I need to write? No? Remember the equation. What is the quadratic formula, class? B plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. All right, so I need my negative b first. So what am I going to write first? Negative 425, right? Now what? Plus or minus square root negative, or sorry, you're right, 425. Okay, because it's just 425 squared, what? Minus 4 times okay. All right, the first thing I want to do is solve what is inside the square root. So we've got negative 425 plus or minus the square root over, and we're going to get what, negative 32 on the bottom? Okay, so let's try to make our job a little bit easier here. Let's grab our graphing calculator and do some quick math, okay, because we're dealing with some big numbers. 425 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 8,200. Okay, I get a pretty big number, right? 705425. Okay, where that's plus or minus, correct? All right? All right, this is something I want you to consider, though. I am dividing by what type of number? A negative number, right? So I can't get a negative distance, though, can I? So do I want the top number to be positive or negative? What, Corey? Negative, because a negative divided by a negative is positive, correct? So do I want negative 425 plus this square root or negative 425 minus the square root? Minus the square root. Okay? So let's do that. Let's do, okay, negative 425 minus the square root of 705425. Okay? Notice that I get negative 1,264.89, so on and so forth, and we're going to divide that by what? Negative 32. So what do I get? Let's see what it is. Somehow I did not wind up with the answer that they got. Yeah, okay, so I get, all right, so we are right. This is the number of seconds. That's what I want you to understand. Now, we're not quite done yet. Okay, that's how many seconds these are in the air for, right? What we solved for was time. What we aren't done yet is we want to find out how far it's going to go. So we need to take that and put it into this equation. So we're taking 113 times my time, which is, let's say, 39.5. Okay, and you could take that further if you wanted to. Let's say 52799. Okay, what is 113 times 39.52799? 4,467. Okay? Remember, we solved for time, and then we needed to plug time into our second equation, right? All right, so I believe we get C as an answer, correct? Now, if you're asking what would happen if we took negative 425 plus the square root, we would have wound up with a positive answer. We would have divided by negative 32. We would have wound up with negative 12.9 seconds. Okay, could we have launched a rock in negative 12.9 seconds? No, we wouldn't have gotten a reasonable answer. Okay, do we understand how we came to this question, right? If you need to, go back and watch the video, slow it down, take it step by step. All right, let's look at question number 4. What time are we out of here? 36? Okay, we'll try to get through. We only have 3 questions left. All right, we've got A, B, C. So we're going to write 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7 over 2 times 1. Do we agree with how this has been written up? Okay, so we have 6 plus or minus the square root. That's going to be over 2. Negative 6 squared is what? 36. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. So what's 36 minus 28? 36 minus 28? 8. Okay, so we wind up with positive square root of 8, right? Okay, can I simplify the square root of 8? 2 and 4, 2 and 2. So what does this simplify to? 6 plus or minus 2 radical 2 over 2. What's 6 divided by 2? 3 plus or minus. Okay. Let's see. We should get radical 2 over 2. Oh, actually, no, just 3 plus or minus radical 2. Sorry. Because, These 2's will cancel out. Okay, 3 plus or minus radical 2. How do we feel about that? Did we understand it? I know I did all the work there. Are we good? Okay, let's clear this up. All right, here is one I want you to pay close attention to. Am I ready to put this in the quadratic formula yet? Why not? It doesn't equal 0. What do I need to do with the negative 9? Add it. Okay, x squared minus 2x plus 9 equals 0, correct? All right, so I'm going to get 2, because that's the opposite of negative 2, plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9, all over 2 times 1. 2 plus or minus all over 2, the square root. 2 squared, negative 2 squared is 4, so we're getting 4 minus, what, 36? All right, what's 4 minus 36? Negative 32, right? Negative 32. All right, so we can take out an I, so we get 2 plus or minus I radical 32 over 2. Let's simplify 32. That's what, 2 and 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. Okay, so that's going to be 2 plus or minus 4I radical 2 over 2. So we get 1 plus or minus 2I radical 2. Check my answer here. You could put this I on either side of the radicals just so long as it's not under it. Do we understand this? Anybody say no? We got it? All right. All right, so I'm going to let you guys do have the answer key for question number 6 with the packet that's been sent to you. So get some practice there. I will tell you, well, you already know the answer, so I'm going to stop right there.